Venus Fridays, tuning into and empowering the feminine inside and out with Venus and the moon. So let's look at what's going on this week. So I got my notes down here I'm looking at. So we start this week off with the moon in Aries and Venus in Virgo. But then the moon moves into Taurus today. So things change quickly. So we have this moon in Taurus and Venus in Virgo. So that's a trine, and there is a like this earth, right? There's a groundedness to the feminine in both the moon aspect of that and how it impacts our waters, our feelings, emotions, as well as the divine feminine in Venus. So that's nice. I have a lot of Virgo and Earth in my chart, so that feels good to me, but it may not feel good to you. Like you may have a really airy chart, and that grounding could be something that feels challenging to you or weighty or heavy, right? It's all about like, I like tuning into the astrology because one, it helps us interact more consciously with the energies present and available to us, as well as it empowers us on our paths, right? To own ourselves, be our authentic selves, and walk our own authentic soul path. So feel what you feel, but this is what I see is going on. Also, before the moon moves into Taurus, it comes into conjunction, meets right with Chiron, and then there's that shift. So there's just a lot of energy supportive of that healing aspect for us around the feminine. Let's be more specific. Like Chiron wants us to help heal old wounds. So the moon coming into alignment with that, it's quick. The moon moves quickly. So this is not a huge, long transit, but it's like there may be something that comes up or there's an opportunity around some healing, especially with like Aries that's like really active doing, and the feminine is much more around being. Not that the feminine doesn't do things, it doesn't mean that, but that it comes from a how do I want to say that? It's like from a more kind of a centered sort of place to take action, rather than like Aries, like the shadow side of Aries can be just like doing for doing's sake, right? Okay, so enough about that. Moving on. So then on Sunday, the moon comes into a conjunction with Uranus in Taurus, right? And then it moves into Gemini. So that's an interesting combination because Uranus is a much more electrical kind of like mental nervous system kind of planet, but it's in Taurus, embodied, right? So the moon comes into a conjunction with that. So it activates that aspect of changeability, which is definitely a superpower of the feminine. And then it moves into Gemini quickly, which so there's kind of like an overlay of this like electrical nervous system, air, mind energy happening. So it could be a lot of like, Uranus is known as the change planet. And again, these transits are quickly moving quickly. The moon moves fast. So it's not like this is a long cycle, but it's like there could be something that just comes into your awareness of like change. There's an opportunity for changing. It doesn't mean you change everything that day, but it could be like, this thing, I don't want to be doing that anymore. I want to make this change, or I want to bring this thing into my life now. And then Gemini like opens all the possibilities, right? So the moon touches into Uranus and then moves into Gemini and opens all the possibilities up, because Gemini is just completely unlimited. So it could feel like you're sort of in your head around things, but you could use that for your own like visioning, dreaming, that kind of a focus. But there is that Uranus Taurus. So you could feel that in your nervous system. It could be something around change that impacts the physical body. Then on Monday, we have the waning half moon in Gemini. So we're in this waning part of the moon cycle, right? So that's the important part of the moon cycle, I think, is to pay attention to the phases just to like help us keep co-creating what we want to in our lives, right? That's why we set these new moon intentions, and then that energy builds to the full moon, and then it wanes, ebbs back to the new moon. So we're at that last quarter moon. So if you're up early, you can see it high in the sky at sunrise. And then later in the morning as it moves towards setting. And this is in Gemini. So it's an interesting energy of like the waning moon is when we go in, it's a little bit more turning inward. There's more of that reflection, looking back on the intention that we set. How did we do with that? Does that work? Did we accomplish it? Was it not right for us? This part worked, that part didn't work. Sort of starting to feel into, what do I want my next intention to be? What's my next goal for next month? What's my next micro action that I want to be taking that supports my larger intentions and goals? And so that is this energy, but it's Gemini, which is really like outward, social. It's not as much about like reflective. It's much more of like, you get an idea and you act on it, and then you get on the next idea and you're curious and it's all coming in. So I'd say just let the curiosity be present, right? Let the Gemini curiosity be there, as well as like the visioning of where you want to be going next, with your next intention coming in a week with this next full moon. All right, so then on Tuesday, we have Venus trine Uranus. So in that flowing relationship, both in the earth signs, Venus in Virgo, Uranus in Taurus, we just talked about. So there's more kind of a opportunity around that grounding of the feminine, but like in that nervous system, electrical, mind stimulated kind of way. So this could go either way, right? Like you could feel like, oh, I spend too much time with my nervous system jacked up. And that's the Uranus change, the focus. I want to ground that, calm that down. Or it could be like, ooh, this feels good, right? It can go either way, but there's a flow around that. So just leaning into and letting that be whatever comes up for you. The moon comes into conjunction with Jupiter and then Mars on Tuesday and moving into Wednesday, depending upon where you are. And that is all in Gemini more, right? So there's a real like amplification of the mind, but in a feeling sense, right? So there could really be an awareness around your nervous system. Like for me, I have Mercury in Gemini and a lot of Virgo, and my nervous system tends to get like really jacked up. I'm always working to like keep it calm. Like, I shared like a couple weeks ago, like I try to not eat sugar because that just like jacks me up. I like cannot have caffeine. I even have to be careful with like eating chocolate because it will like jack me up, right? So like for me, it's like I'm always trying to calm my nervous system down, like sort of bring it down more into my body and let it like relax and find more peace and space with it. So this conjunction of like Mars doing action, keep going, right? That can be the shadow side of the masculine, is like pushing, such a problem for me. I'm always working on. So there could be like an amplification of that, as well as a ability to tune into and go, okay, here are steps I want to be taking to not do that. Because remember, we're still in that waning part of the moon cycle. So those two things can help serve each other over this week. All right, I hope that makes sense. Okay, and then if you're out early in the morning, be sure to look for the moon being with Jupiter and Mars. They're together near the Pleiades. They're in the Bull constellation right now. So that's a beautiful sight to see as well. And then on Wednesday, the moon moves into Cancer, right? So that's a real resonant energy, that nurturing kind of emotional, deep feeling place, right? Cancer lives, all the water signs live in the world of feelings and the emotional realm, and that's what interests them. So the moon moving into that is like, there's a supportive energy around that. again, depending upon your chart, right? Like it may feel good when the moon is in Cancer, or it may feel not good to you, right? So it's about just increasing our own awareness of how we experience these things and what the opportunities are for us individually, because it's all about empowerment. And that comes from us like embracing our wholeness and understanding like our own complete unique experience. And then the Venus is opposite Neptune on Wednesday as well. So there is some more, this is like Virgo Pisces, some more heart-based energy for the feminine, right? So Neptune represents that heart, the heart of the universe for me. It's that place where we have to like go inward to find our compass and like connect to spirit. That's what Neptune brings so much. So I think that is a nice combination with the moon entering Cancer and just being more aligned with our feeling sense, which I think is one of the most important ways that we can empower the feminine when we live in a world where it's like not okay to feel and you just want to keep doing and distracting, right? So part of empowering the feminine is like stepping back into our feminine powers, which is feeling and connecting to our intuition and those aspects. And then also on Wednesday, it's a big day. Mercury stations direct in Leo. So this starts a new Mercury cycle until December. So Mercury has like 4-month-ish cycles. And so this cycle starts in Leo on Wednesday when Mercury goes direct. And so that is a time of what do we want to do with our mind, our mental world? Mercury in Leo, fire sign, heart, self-love, stepping into our royalty, our own divinity, right? Our own creatorship. So I think that is an awesome time to really, dream into, let the visions come of what do you want in your life, right? What do you want to be creating, like with your health and your relationships or your work or your meaning and purpose, like your creativity, all these different aspects of your life. This Mercury Leo cycle is a brilliant time to lean into that. Trust your heart, trust your intuition. Just let the dream and the vision come. Don't worry about the how. That often blocks the dream because it's like, oh, I can't do that, so I'm not going to even go there. Go there. Let the pieces, parts work out later, right? Who knows what can happen and conspire and come together when we like actually let ourselves align with what it is we really want to be creating. So we have this meeting of the mind, Mercury, Leo cycle, our creativity, our creatorship, our divine nature. So that's a nice kind of like a 3-month sort of dreaming and allowing that you can have. And then finally on Thursday, Venus moves into Libra. So leaves Virgo, this grounded earth priestess, connecting us into the sacred place, into relationship focused, right? Oriented, mental Libra. So Libra is about conscious relationships. Libra is the place where the feminine learns about herself through the mirror reflections our relationships provide for us, right? So Libra is always trying to learn the lesson around still seeing my true self, being conscious of my real self, regardless of like the projections that I experience in my relationships, right? So that's a long growth process for Libra, but it's an awesome time with Venus moving into Libra to kind of just tune into our relationships. Are they reflecting ourselves, right? Libra wants to be that aspect of the feminine that can be more on the shadow side of where it's like harmony at my own detriment, keeping the peace at my own detriment, right? Focusing on everyone else at my own detriment. But we have this Leo Mercury cycle starting, Mercury Leo being a fixed sign, which is a serving self sign, helping us learn about like healthy selfishness, right? Focusing on ourselves is how we can like actually help others, right? Filling our cup first, putting our own air mask on first on the airplane, right? So Venus moving into Libra could be supported by this Mercury Leo cycle to help us really love ourselves, see ourselves, and aspire to and connect into those relationships, those equal conscious relationships that help us to accurately see ourselves, accurately reflect who we really are as we step into that energy. Okay, so enjoy this Venus moving into Leo time, checking into our relationships, and not compromising ourselves to keep the peace or keep the harmony, right? Let ourselves be a higher priority than that, even if it feels uncomfortable. So Venus in Libra is an amazing time for us as women to focus on that aspect of the feminine that really needs like healing and empowerment so that we can have much more conscious, equal partnerships that really work for us and serve us in the world. All right, blessings on your week, and I'll see you next week.